Hello everyone and welcome back to another tier list ranking video here on my channel for the Eurovision season of 2025. And the next one up that I decided to check out was the one from Slovenia. It's called EMA. I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce what it's actually called. It's just generally known as EMA 2025. And it has 12 songs. They were released not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. I checked them out today because the national final is it's a little bit short notice, but the national final is actually taking place quite soon. I haven't memorized when it is, but I figured, hey, it's pretty soon, so I probably should prioritize this one. I know Festival da Canção has been out for a while now, and I've already listened to that one, but I figured I'll let that one sit for a little bit since the national final is so far away and prioritize the ones that are coming very, very soon so I can make sure that I get a tier list out before the actual national final takes place and share my thoughts on the songs in the selection. 12 songs are competing in the Slovenian national final. Slovenia, who of course have qualified now 2 years in a row, after their very, very unfortunate last place in 2022, of course, with Disco, a song that I think, that I still really, really like and should have never finished in last place. I'm still upset. No, not really, but I still think that was a bit harsh. But right now, they're in a bit of a streak. 2 years in a row of qualification. Can they go for 3? Hopefully, of course. And I will be sharing my thoughts as to which song I think they should go for if they want to achieve that. As it stands right now, these are only studio cuts that I based this off of, because I have not seen anything live related to these. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with all of them. And the first one that I will be talking about is called Ciao by Anna. And there is no way that I would ever be able to pronounce this title wrong, because I heard her say it approximately 1,000,000 times when listening to this song, which is, you know, kind of a bummer for me anyway. Some people might like that repetition. I'm usually not very fond of it personally. I think the song has attitude, for sure. That's kind of nice. There's some energy throughout the track that is maintained really well, I gotta say. It feels like it's always kind of pushing forward. There's a decent drive to it. And it seems quite purposeful in actually reaching its destination in that regard. However, it is annoyingly repetitive in terms of its chorus, at least for me, and that makes me feel like I need to kind of hold it back a little bit. I don't particularly enjoy it because of that aspect, and I'm placing it in the D tier because of that. Moving on to Divya by ZveN. Yeah, those pronunciations were probably much worse. However, this song, absolutely, I hear the ambition in here. It has an ambition to be very immersive, and that's kind of cool. But I feel like when I listen to it, it's quite messy in its purpose and its actual execution here. The backing track feels like it's a bit all over the place in my ears anyway. I'd say that the intention is very admirable, but the execution is kind of anything but, really. It's not something that I enjoy listening to. I felt like it was way too kind of vague and abstract, and also quite messy in terms of its actual execution, and all those things piling together makes my enjoyment a little subpar, really, here. So I'm placing this one in the E tier. It's not really a listen for me. Could definitely be won over if it's convincing live or whatnot, and really has that immersive delivery. But right now, I'm not feeling it. And I'm also not feeling Kind. Well, I guess I won't be feeling much Kind when I'm talking about the song Kind by PolarAce. And you know, I find this song is so harmless and just wants to be there to be a bit uplifting and lift your spirits and kind of joyous. And I sit here and I'm grumpy again, because that's just who I am, I suppose, at times. I mean, there's something sweet absolutely in what they want to do with the song, but it's so on the nose. It's almost quite tacky in like the lack of finesse that it has really shows. I don't think that this really can provide any contrast, any dynamic, any real kind of actually gripping feeling within it, because there's nothing to really grab onto. It's too happy in a way, without really just having that explosion of drive or energy that actually can go hand in hand with being too happy. I mean, it is uplifting somewhat, but it's ultimately very, very harmless, of course. But I'm just not a fan of it. I find this one to be very, very weak in terms of the competition, really. I do not connect with any aspect of it, really. It's nice what they want to do with it, but I don't connect with it. I'm placing this one in the F tier, actually. I don't enjoy it at all. Unfortunately, very non-kind of me. And I will actually be being a bit non-kind here because Touché by Astrid and the Scandals is song number 4. This is the running order that they actually put it up in. I promise I'm not going to be as negative about all of the songs, but they put a lot of them, the ones that I don't really like, early on in the running order here, it feels like. I can admire the attitude within this song for sure. The beat has something to it conceptually as well. Not quite there in terms of the sound design and the execution and the actual impact that I feel as a listener. It's really just lacking that impact. But the main problem here is what I'm hearing from the vocal department, really. I think it's vocally very off-putting. The singing just does not give me a lot of excitement. It does not sound convincing. There is this quite continuous ha, 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 ha hook thing they got going on, which is really quite flat and ultimately quite repetitive as well. And the fact that it's sung in a way that I don't find very convincing just kind of piles on to that impression that I get that this is simply not for me, and I find it to be quite a disappointment, really. It could have had something with the attitude that's in here. There is a little bit of energy to the track, but ultimately the singing holds it back as I listen to the studio cut. It could be, just kind of falsely presented through the studio cut. Maybe it's going to sound fantastic live, but I am skeptical at the moment. I'm placing this one in the F tier as well. I get no enjoyment out of it, unfortunately. Nice to have it here, I suppose, but it's simply not up my alley. However, it's time for something that's more up my alley. This is Vse Ti Dam by Jon Vitezič. Which I gotta say, like, the production absolutely leaves a little bit to be desired, but that can be fixed later. I think this is a very competent package, and that's like the main standout part of it. There's a nice flow of energy in the backing track, absolutely. I think vocally it's quite characteristic and also convincing. It sounds good altogether, has a great impression on me at least. The progression of the track seems purposeful, it knows where it wants to go, and it goes there without really holding anything back. The choruses are enjoyable. It's an instant foot tapper. I think it's just a great tune altogether. It's very well put together and nicely presented, and I'm placing this one in the A tier. I think it's a good effort, and would not mind in the slightest if Slovenia went for this. I'll say that much. Moving on to Ooh Ow, maybe, exclamation mark, by Kiki, which, the first time I heard it, there are so many kind of strange ideas and concepts within the song that I was kind of, just skeptical towards it, but I've just learned to embrace it. I think this is quite fun, really. It's a very charming opening that the song has. There's a neat groove that comes in with the first kind of chorus, or when the beat really kicks in. It just flows very, very nicely there. And then there's, also quite a bit of suspense throughout the track, really, that I think is quite tangible in here. Then all of a sudden the unexpected switch up comes in halfway through. The beat that takes over there, it's really intense. It's quite cool, I gotta say. And I think it could absolutely be very, very engaging with some polish in the production, because I think that's needed. It's a bit rough around the edges for sure, but I'm very intrigued by what they can do with it, and I think the visual presentation will absolutely be key here. I'm optimistic, I'm kind of excited about it. I think this is a fun listen. I would not mind if this one I would be stoked if this one just blew me away when I saw it live, and it really came together with the vision that I think they have musically with this one. That would be really cool. I'm placing this one in the B tier as it stands. It's a bit too rough around the edges, I'd say, but absolutely something in there that really speaks to me anyway. And next up is Niti by Eva Pavli, which, this song, I'm a bit on the fence with it, really, because I think that it's a bit too static in terms of its structure. It's not too energetic or engaging, but I know that it doesn't really set out to be that either, so I can't really complain about it too much. Vocally, I find this song to be very, very pretty, I gotta say. It's quite atmospheric as well, and I'm very fond of the setting of this track. I think it has something special to it, and it could absolutely be a standout because of all of these aspects. I think that maybe the lack of energy throughout the track, that could obviously be polished a little bit, and you might not actually notice it or care about that when you see it in a performance, if it's convincing enough in that aspect. I think this one has something to it. I'm placing this one in the B tier as well. I'm quite fond of it. I'm really quite fond of it. Not as much as I am of the other two here, but I would feel too harsh placing it in the C tier because I think it has something going for it for sure. Next up is Klemen here with quite the outfit on the image here with the song How Much Time Do We Have Left? And this one has a pretty composition. Yeah, absolutely. It feels sincere, which I like. It probably comes from the heart. At least it sounds like that. And even though like it's not the most exciting in terms of its actual presentation or so, it just does things the way that you kind of expect them to and do them in a solid enough way, really. I like the instrumentation in this track. It blends all of these inputs quite nicely. I mean, it is campfire guitar strumming. It's simple kind of strings, very sparse, just to provide some backdrop, and a lead piano. But it just works. I mean, it works for a reason. These are common instrumental inputs to use for a reason. They're effective, and they're used very, very nicely here. Even though they're not particularly exciting on their own, they combine into something that's quite neat, really. As I said, I don't think the song is particularly exciting, but it's solid. I'm placing this one in the C tier. Could be a special moment on stage as well, of course. Like with, there's always a lot of potential when you get performances later on as well, so... Next up is New Religion by July Jones, and I see the ambition here as well, like it's being this kind of cool, suggestive pop tune, and I'm all for that, I guess. I don't find this one to be particularly exciting, if I'm completely honest. I think that my favorite part of the track really is this kind of neat opening that it has. Then when it leads into these choruses, I find the choruses to be a bit on the monotonous side, not particularly exciting. They have some sort of energy to them, and they could absolutely be quite catchy. It's also quite suspenseful at times, but I think it's not just all the way there in terms of the impact. I'm not getting hooked by it for whatever reason. I just don't find it particularly exciting. It ends up getting quite repetitive as well. The hook is being looped a lot, and really like I have another issue with it as well with the production side of things. I like the there's an excessive amount of sub bass in the choruses, which becomes really distracting when you listen to it with a speaker that actually highlights or emphasizes or takes out the sub bass. It feels like the mixing really needs to get back delved into there to really kind of emphasize that there's actually like vocals and brightness within the track and really enhance that and make that stand out a bit more. I'd still say that this is among the better tracks in the selection. I'm placing it in the C tier, but it's not really all the way there. I feel like there's a lot of potential for it to be more impressive to me anyway. Next up is ZveN Videc. Yeah, I'm not so sure on the pronunciation, sorry. Pusti da Gori, which is kind of a little bit of like I wouldn't say old-fashioned track, but it's a little bit of grey, gritty, but quite soft rock, really. And, I mean, there are some kind of neat riffs in here, I think at least. The bass walks provide some character to the song. Vocally, it seems quite convincing as well, I'd say. It has just kind of an own identity about it that I quite like. But ultimately, I think the tune overall is kind of lifeless and doesn't really have that proper punch and drive and proper distortion in the track to really go all the way. I would have, like, this song would have really needed to properly kick into gear at some point. It just sounds a bit too subdued for being a song within this style, and I think that's the disappointing part. I'm still placing it in the D tier. I think it has some redeeming qualities, and it's a thing of its own style, and it goes for that. So, but I feel like there's something missing in there as well. Next up, the penultimate song will be Grace by Trine, or Trine. Not a lot of songs in English in this selection, and when I listened to this one, because I listened to them in the order of the running order here, and I was like just taken aback by like, oh yeah, there haven't been that much English in the selection, and I think that really stands out about this song when you get to it. It might be just completely unfair towards it, but the English language kind of makes this one less interesting for me anyway. I mean, it doesn't really stand out as much next to the competition because it feels like something that maybe you hear in any national final, really. It doesn't have that outstanding quality to it. It's a very sweet and accessible tune for sure, but it's ultimately quite uninteresting to me, and I'm not sure if the language would have really changed that, but ultimately I find it to be a bit of an uninteresting listen. I'll be honest. It doesn't do much wrong, but it doesn't really do anything to grab me either, so it's another D tier, I'd say. It's fine, but not something that I will remember too much. At least that's as it stands right now. However, one song that I absolutely did remember when I finished listening to it is Frederick's Dead by Rai. I mean, this one, I'm a bit on the fence. I think this one is very, very silly, almost to an excessive amount. It might not be intended to be that way, but that's the perception that I get anyway when I listen to it. I feel like, okay, you know, you do your thing, and they absolutely do. They're going for it. They don't hold back, and that's all the more power to them for sure. There's some effective layering in the track for sure, from the vocal that's kind of layered on top of the instrumental to emphasize a hook. It's done in quite an effective way in this track. Has a fun instrumentation for sure. There's a lot of various inputs that really combine into creating something special. When the guitar solo comes in, it's a nice touch for sure. The beat is also, you know, very just built up from a very effective melody that sticks, and that being the core of the track and the backbone of it. It's a nice foundation, and that makes the song quite memorable. Could be absolutely a fun listen. I have fun at times listening to it as well. I think that, like, I'm personally not too fond of the chorus. I just think melodically it doesn't really deliver in terms of what I expect when I listen to the verses, which I think are the stronger parts of the track, and the bridges. But the choruses, they kind of flat melodically, I'd say, and don't really pique my interest because of that. But absolutely, overall, I appreciate the creativity of this track. It has an unpredictable quality that absolutely should be, you know, applauded for sure. Will be interesting to see what they do with it in a performance, but could absolutely have some hype behind it. I would understand that. I'm currently placing it in the C tier. I think it fits quite nicely in there because I have a lot of various opinions about it. But it has its moments for sure, and those moments are quite fun. And that's the tier list for EMA 2025, at least from my opinion. Do share what you think of these songs in the comment section, please. I'd love to know. And let me know, just overall, who are you rooting for? Who do you hope will represent Slovenia this year? And which songs out of these do you think stand the best chance at getting a good result in Eurovision? That could always be interesting to find out. As it stands from the studio cuts, my answer is quite clear or evident. It's, of course, Vse Ti Dam. I'm rooting for it, but if it falls flat live, then I'm rooting for something else. And, you know, something that could absolutely just come out of nowhere and impress massively. I would be rooting for that regardless of what my favorite song is. So that's that for now. Hopefully I'll see you again very, very soon. I guess I got national finals from Belgium and Malta. Those should be coming up pretty soon. I might have forgotten something else that I need to cover. But yeah, be on the lookout for more videos coming up soon. Thank you so much for watching this one though. And take care of yourselves. And bye for now.